Hi everybody, Rebekah the Ghost Guide here, and I am here to answer one of the most frequently asked questions you have, is how to do a cleansing. Here's the loaded answer with all of this, okay? Everybody may have a different way of cleansing themselves and their house, and let me tell you, that is entirely okay. And because of this, I wanted to have more opinions than just my own on the subject. And so for this particular episode, I'm going to take you step by step on not only what I do, but also going to interview other people who have different practices. Let's dive in.
Hi, I'm Ashley Paget. I have been a scholar practitioner of the woo-woo for about 16 years. I have a bachelor's degree in anthropology and a master's degree in anthropology. Lots of fun stuff.
I'm her husband, John. Also an anthropologist, coming way more from the historical perspective of the woo-woo kind of thing, less so a active practitioner.
My name is Jay. I am the owner of Old Southern Conjure, as well as co-host of Is It Real and How to Deal, and I am a conjure man.
I would classify myself as an eclectic pagan.
I do identify as a pagan, and an eclectic pagan is that.
Conjure is also known as hoodoo. It is practical.
My ritual practice is very based on Neolithic and Chalcolithic ritual practices, so I do a lot of work that is very similar to shamanism.
It is a spiritual practice that deals with the everyday kind of stuff everybody goes through. It's meant to accentuate, to grease the wheels.
I work with a few very specific deities from different pantheons because with my anthropology training, I've been exposed to a lot of different cultures. A lot of my other practices work with archetypal personalities and elemental energies.
Just for my own preferences, I tend to not put a lot into ritual. Looking at it from like a historical, anthropological kind of perspective, a lot of times traditionally, people were using types of incense, whether that's like the Egyptian kaifi or sage.
Sage.
Occasionally I will use white sage, but it's not the end-all be-all. The most important thing behind a cleansing is your will and your intention. White sage is understood to be incredibly powerful, specifically for native peoples of the Americas, because that is their will and their intention. That is the connection that they have. It's important to view these things as tools rather than to view them as anything magical. Really, we have all that we need within us. These are tools to help us visualize it in the physical realm.
Palo Santo.
Palo Santo.
Palo Santo is being over-harvested. Do your research, get references for where you're getting it. It is up to you to know if the area where they got it is being over-harvested or not, if it is, destroying a local ecosystem or not. Do your research. It's the same with white sage.
I imagine it would also affect the effectiveness of what you're using.
Exactly.
I feel like something has really gotten in that I don't want in my home. I will use dragon's blood incense.
If I have a cleansing that simply isn't going to work without something a bit more heavy duty, I'll reach for the Palo Santo.
I actually have made kaifi before, which is a resinous Egyptian, incense. Just had the idea of I'm putting this intent in hand there because I wanted to research it.
You can use any bundle. I've got a dragon's blood bundle here. I've got a cedar bundle.
Most of the herbs that you could use in conjure, you can find in your kitchen.
Different herbs will have different properties.
I also grow my own blue sage, lavender, and rosemary so that I can always harvest things humanitarily.
Of course, you could go online and find all the weird specific stuff, Solomon seal and deer tongue's root and five-finger grass and devil shoestring, all kinds of things. But honestly, if you have a cinnamon stick, some cloves and some allspice and some salt in your kitchen, that's all you need.
What matters is the intent and the will that you put behind it.
It's whatever kind of resonates with you, because the idea is you're clearing the air, and that's kind of the basic fundamental part of the house.
The fact that people have used different things all over the world, yes, these things have cleansing properties to them, but it really shows that central idea that where there's a will, there's a way. So if it is something that you invest in as a sign of cleansing, then it is going to work for you.
You can actually wave the incense over like a specific item, specific place.
I actually do make brooms. What I'll do is I'll take my broom and just use it to sweep the energy away. As a tool, as a vehicle of intent, it really helps in that way.
The combination of multiple elements to what some people say is raise the vibration, both within yourself but also within space.
And I'll go and I'll do that throughout my entire house.
Sometimes less fragrant things, heat.
One element will sometimes call to another higher than the other, but it's not to discount anything.
Yeah.
You know, something that smoke is the idea of the smoke, because it's clearing it out and you can blow it and that kind of stuff to blow the energy away.
There are quite a few simple things like cleansing baths that you can do if you have a bathtub. If you don't, you can do it in a shower. Something as simple as a sprinkle.
If it's not something that vibes with you, then you don't have to use it.
The whole point is that what matters to you is what you're comfortable with, that you want to use to clear that space. I am very fond of throwing open the windows because the idea that air gets stagnant. We all know that kind of musty feeling of a closed room. Throw the windows open, get some fresh air in there, because that's a physical sensation that you can tie into the metaphysical and kind of link those two together a little bit. I'm a big fan of kind of meshing that together. Tend to respond better to it when there's something physical I can tie to.
Get yourself in the shower, get yourself in the right headspace.
Maybe incense, music, just whatever can kind of get you in that headspace where you need to focus.
It's a lot about gaining or regaining control of a space.
A quick kind of thing is taking a bundle and, since using smoke, just kind of like as you would wash yourself, right?
Yeah.
Just move that smoke around you, get
We
somebody
used to
to get
call
your
it
back.
a bird bath as a kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
you're not taking a full shower, but it's steamy out. You take a wet rag and just kind of wipe yourself down. The exact same idea you can do with any kind of smoking material.
Historical anthropological perspective, ritual cleansing tends to involve a lot of water. Water is obviously we need it to live, so it's a great way to wash away everything. So it's not uncommon for a lot of cultures or practices to have some sort of ritual bath.
But once you're there, pour the stuff on top of your head and wash yourself from head to toe. Do that for 3 days and you're golden. It's as simple as it gets.
And you don't even have to do anything special to the water. Sometimes just the act of actually physically cleansing, again, is, also metaphysically cleansing
And
as well.
with the intention.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
You mix certain herbs together, you mix certain oils together. You boil it like you would a tea. You reserve the solids so you can use them later. But then you bless the water. Nice and simple.
Personally, I am a fan of bath bombs.
Bubbles.
Bubbles are fun. That's the idea. Make it fun for yourself too, because then you're getting more invested into it. And whether that's you want to light candles and set something up with that, with whatever tradition you follow, throw some Epsom salt in the water. Whatever you feel comfortable with, so you can actually get in that headspace that you need to be. And it's working on self.
Now, that water is great because it's got a multitude of things. You can put it on the floor of your home for hardwood and wash your floors that way. You can use it to take a bit in your hands, sprinkle it on all 4 corners of each room, or just the house and some in the center, to do the exact same thing you would with salt to protect your home.
For this particular cleansing, I chose a bundle of blue sage and lavender. I purchased this from Madame Meerkat's in town, and it just felt right to me.
The biggest thing I've seen, and the thing I counsel people against the most, is when it comes to any kind of metaphysics, do not substitute metaphysics for basic human psychology.
I'm gonna say it, therapy.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's not a bad thing.
Honestly, that's what I was wanting to say, but I wasn't sure.
Therapy.
Therapy.
Is good.
Yes. So honestly, I go to a therapist every 2 weeks, like clockwork.
Yep.
I see a
Ditto,
counselor and I
ditto.
see a psychiatrist.
If you are not in a good headspace, if you are consistently not in a good headspace, there are things you can do, either with conjure or metaphysics in general, spirituality, that can help you get in a better space. But if those don't work, get help.
Talk to your counselor about it.
Yes.
And if they decide to take it from a psychoanalytical side, then listen to what they're saying, because the things that they're telling you can still be helpful to you, even if you feel very strongly that it is a metaphysical thing or attachment that is happening. But the more your counselor knows, the more they're going to be able to help you.
If you want to do this kind of work spiritually, you have to be in a good headspace mentally. That's as simple as it gets. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that I want to do this stuff, but I can't until I'm in a better space.
The one that I see, I was very open from the get-go. Let him know what my spiritual practice was. Let him know what my lifestyle is. And I happened to luck out that he was very energetically involved too.
There, especially with quarantine as well, there are so many options now available online that were not there before that there's no excuse.
Talking is a form of releasing.
Yes.
Right? You're
Absolutely.
literally
Definitely.
thinking something and exhaling it.
When it comes to this kind of work as well, let's say you're making a brew. Each step you can make it as complicated a process or as simple a process as you want it, but the biggest thing is what you get out of it.
People have this fear, what if my therapist thinks I have schizophrenia? Well, okay, maybe, but there are ways to cope with that.
Yes.
You shouldn't be afraid of the diagnosis.
No.
If it helps
No.
you.
Never ever be afraid of the diagnosis, because as soon as you know what's going on, you can start to help yourself. Because that's really what a counselor does, is they give you a toolbox for you to help yourself.
It's what you choose to do with that time and the different steps of that process. For me, getting in that right headspace and then doing these small things honestly puts me in the right headspace of where I need to be.
People should consider counselors and therapists, especially if they're coming from a background that otherwise does not believe in what they are experiencing.
Absolutely.
Yes. The cool thing about a counselor is that they really can't tell anyone else. So you're safe.
Somebody who is just going to listen to you rather than start going into a religious perspective or a personal standpoint.
They won't condemn you for your beliefs.
Right.
Right.
And if they do, find a new counselor.
There's
That's-
really, don't just jump from counselor to counselor because you don't like what you're hearing, because it might be
You have
painful.
to build a relationship
Yeah.
up with them. It's
Yeah.
like making a new friend.
Yeah, but if there's just like with any relationship, physical, metaphysical, romantic, whatever, your relationship with your counselor should be a safe place. It should feel like a safe place where you are free to be yourself.
At the very least, too, it gives you the ability to kind of take a step back and analyze yourself and see what's really going on.
Yes.
So even if you feel it is a, spiritual presence or something that's there, being able to take that step back, remove yourself from the situation and really look at it and kind of evaluate it is a really great tool that a therapist can really help with.
It took my health and my sanity to a much different realm.
Yeah.
If I hadn't opened up, then I wouldn't have that.
Like if I'm making a cleansing bath like that, a sprinkle, it puts me in the right headspace where if I were to hop in the shower and then use it, it does its job the way it's intended. It's how you separate these things cognitively, emotionally, and spiritually in a way that makes sense for you.
In my practice, the first thing that I do before I cleanse my space is to make sure that I am as cleansed personally as I can be. So that means being in the right headspace. That means being at balance, being at peace, whatever that might mean to you. In order to achieve this, for me, what works is meditation and imagination, to be honest. I follow the Quaker practice of what is called centering, which is creating a space of balance, a space of safety, and a space that allows for good intention work. Once I'm in a good space, I'll actually start going around my house and doing the actual cleansing. First thing that I do is I go around and open up all of my windows that can be opened, as well as my doors. One of the reasons why I love this house so much is that we have really great screened windows and doors that allow for free-flowing air. It also works in my favor on this particular day because it's under Tropical Storm Bertha. And I actually love cleansing right before a storm comes in because the energy of the storm and the air of the storm carry the energy out. It's like a big kind of suction that the earth provides, and I love taking advantage of that energy. Every storm has a bit different energy from the last, but I like this one.
What I do is, especially on a nice day, I'll throw open all the windows. I'll put on music that I feel reflects me, light some incense.
Physically clean your space first.
Physically clean my home.
Literally clean the house. Just like there is spiritual dust, you've got to get the physical dust out too.
If you need to get your space clean spiritually, you can't do that until the physical clutter is gone.
A lot can be said about really ordering your space, because many times the space that we live in is a reflection of kind of what's going on up here.
Physical clutter also has a really bad way of indicating spiritual clutter.
That can get in the way of the energetic work that you want to perform on your home.
Physical and spiritual work hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. You've got to create that balance. And so this is me sweeping stuff out the door. I love having laminate floors. It makes absolute sense to me, and it allows me to get in the space of being prepared to push things out spiritually. So imagine this is in a physical form of what I am about to do spiritually.
Where spatially everything feels correct in the material world, then I will take that incense that I've lit and go through each area of my house and see if anything feels stuck. You know, I kind of put my feelers out.
From there, I start in the back of the home. This is my back door. If you do not have a back door, you can start from a back window. If you have a multi-story house, I would recommend starting from the top and working your way down, or perhaps starting from the basement, work your way up, then go up to the top and then work your way down. Get everything centered on the main floor so that you can push it out. As I stand at the back door, you'll see me make a cross. I start from the very top, go all the way down to the bottom, and then cross it on the side. Some of you may take this as a Christian symbol. I take this as not only a Christian symbol, but also a symbol that is ancient in its meaning, a cross that holds itself up. This, for me, allows for there to be a kind of barrier on the home for the intention, but also allows open space for me to push negative energy out and around it. Think of it kind of like a two-way mirror. So I make that cross, and as I'm doing this also in my head, and sometimes I say it out loud, sometimes I say it in my head, I am stating the intention of why I am doing this. Typically for my house, I create an intention of the house itself being a place of balance, of peace, basically of good vibes. I create a space where those vibes help to balance with the negativity that is going to come in at some point or another, because that is what balance is, right? I cross it, I line each side of the door or frame it, and then I seal it with a circle. That's 3 circles. I just like the number 3. It just makes sense to me. And that's me sealing my intention. That's not me sealing the door from anything that wants to remove itself. That's only me sealing it from anything that might want to come in that does not have the consent and goodwill of the household. You'll see me do this for every window as well, and I'll end it with a push. So it's me pushing out what I will not allow within the home, but it's also taking in anything that will help the house and home to be better. From there, I go clockwise around each room and I work my way up. For this particular video, you're only gonna see a few rooms in the house because otherwise it would take a very long time. Moving all the way up going down the hall, moving all the way up, and you'll see.
Now, once that's clean though, there are a bunch of different things you could use. I talked about that sprinkle. You could use the sprinkle the same way other people would use sage or smudging. You could sprinkle that on all four corners of each room or the house, like I said. Some in the center. You create that kind of clean space.
The kitchen, for example, I'm opening all of the cabinets. That's because that's space in there too. You don't want anything harboring there. Think of this as a deep clean, right? You want to get everything up and moving. You want to raise that vibration so that you can shake out the dust and push that dust out. Here I am going clockwise around the room again, stating my intention over every window, only allowing good things to come in. Another thing that I do as I go through is, just as I might scrub a floor or scrub a tabletop, I'm imagining in my mind scrubbing any gray gook or black gook or just any kind of color that doesn't mesh well with what I want in the home. I imagine scrubbing that away with the smoke that I'm using. And there have been times when I have not had access to a bundle, and so I charge up my inner core, so to speak, a bit more, and I will use my hand to scrub. And I don't have to touch anything. It is a spiritual thing. It is putting that energy out and using that of its own. And that's why I say all of these items that you can use are tools. That's why you can use smoke, you can use literal cleaner, you can use a liquid base or a dirt base, whatever works for you, because the power and the will come from you or come from your higher being. Whatever it is that you believe in that gives you strength, will, power, balance, peace, you name it.
You would use the Palo Santo, or the smoking element, as it were, cover the entirety of a room. Windows open, doors open, cover the entirety of a room, you smoke it out, but the biggest thing is your intention. It's how you set it. Again, that practical aspect. For me, it's not any of this like, I want it to be this, and I want it to be this. It's a very simple matter of, this is my home, anything I didn't personally make or invite, get out, doors open. You empty that space. But the most important thing to do after you empty a space, nature and spirit abhors a vacuum. So, if I smoke out a room, great, but now it's empty, and anything could just come wandering back in.
Finally, I end it at the front door, and I actively push out whatever dust, so to speak, that I have found, and allow for any good intentions, for any good things for the household, allow them entry and consent if they do come.
Is take some salt, any salt will do, and make a line either on the windowsill or the bottom of the door. That way, you can close the windows on top of it, you can close the door past it. The salt acts as a last line of defense, as a wall in through your entryway.
It is important to fill it afterwards. Something as simple as lighting a tea candle, lighting some incense that may be geared towards what you want it to do. Even as simple as turning on the light to the room, leaving it on for a little bit, fills the space. It sets that intention in stone for what you want to do. I would do that for the whole house. Once I was done, I would cross the doors with the smoke and my hand, and I would take a little bit of that ash from the Palo Santo. It burns, it's a resinous wood, and I would do the same. I'd put a little cross at the top of the door or the window. With conjure and a lot of other practices, there is a habit of, if you're going to use a candle for something, you have to condition it. You have to get it set and ready to go for what you want. Take, however, a bit of oil. Conditioning oils, I've mentioned it a couple times. Conditioning oils are very specific oils that you can make or purchase that have herbs, roots, nuts, curios, very specific things with specific properties that, again, same with sigil work. You're taking all these separate ideas, but putting them into a cohesive whole for a specific purpose. You can use some of the conditioning oils to anoint or dress your candles. It helps kind of build it together. But the last thing you do, you tap it down. It's you called knocking the candle. You are sending that intention in. You use that to fill the space. The whole idea is practicality, right? And with a very practical, pragmatic sense of how life works, nothing comes for free. The idea of, I light this candle and then it's all going to come true, does not exist in Conjure. You would light a candle to help. You know, if your life is a machine, the wheels got to turn. Conjure helps to grease the wheels, but you still have to turn it.
And literally, you can imagine it. The light lights up an area.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's what we mean by filling, but
Yeah.
there's the metaphysical element as well.
Yeah.
Or going around and lighting incense. I love incense, and I love the smell that it leaves behind. It's that physical smell that reminds you of the spiritual cleansing that took place.
We talked about a number of things that are for purchase that you sell to assist other people who maybe aren't so much into making their own stuff. Say somebody is a newbie at this, but they're like, oh, I feel Brooms calling to me. Could they maybe get a broom from you?
Yes, they could.
Do you maybe have a website where I could link up for
I
the
do.
broom goodies?
It is called Helle Brooms. I have an Instagram, which is probably going to be the easiest way to get to me.
I will link it.
I am both on Facebook and Etsy as far as selling product. You can always get in touch with me as well to commission something specifically for you.
There are 5% off coupons to your store on our Patreon, as
Yes,
well as
there
10% off coupons to your store on Patreon for a higher tier. Any woo-woo things you want to share with us?
No, I'm a boring HR guy, so yeah. I do paperwork all day.
Yay!
Yay!
We need paperwork, people!
Paperwork.
Jay, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Great. Well, excellent. That answers all my
Alright.
questions. Thank you so much for being on the
Absolutely,
show.
thank you.
That's it. I hope that you've enjoyed this special episode and that you have something that you've learned from it. And hey, if you cleanse in a different way, please comment down below. I want to hear what works for you and why it works for you, because that's so important to your well-being for yourself, your house, and your home. I hope you join back next week. We'll be back to the spookier content. I am back to doing ghost tours, which is super exciting. And let me tell you, the first weekend alone was a pretty big one for pictures. It was very exciting for us. I cannot wait to show you some of what was going on. And remember, if you want to see the pictures early, remember, following TikTok, following Instagram, following Facebook, that's where they are released, and that is where I ask people for their initial opinions. And remember, comments on there might just show up on YouTube. For those of you who have already subscribed, and for those of you who have been watching regularly, weekly, I cannot thank you enough. You are awesome. I'm Rebekah the Ghost Guide. Check you next week.